Hey, good evening and welcome to the January 2026 Orange Board of Selectmen meeting. In the event of an emergency, my right, the audience's left. I think probably most everybody came through that stairwell right there, which leads up to the rear parking lot. In the event that that were not passable, you could go straight down the hallway out the back, which would put you up the stairs by the, in between the town hall and the firehouse, or if you went up the stairs behind the wall with the clock on it through the double doors, that will put you out in front of the town hall, just so everybody knows for safety's sake. I see PAC 922, I've been told, I hope that's the right number, is in the audience tonight, so we're going to rise for the pledge, but I'm going to ask the PAC to come up and lead us in the pledge. All the way up front here. And then you kind of face the flag and the audience a little sideways both, and do your salute, and you do the, when you start the pledge, we'll join in. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, gentlemen. Those young men are here tonight to ask for permission to use the gymnasium for their Pinewood Derby. I don't know how many of you over the years have had scouts in your family or yourselves, and remember the Pinewood Derby contest, and that's what they are here for tonight, if everybody's wondering why they are here. Okay. We'll start on this side tonight.
Good evening and welcome, everybody. PJ Shanley.
Happy New Year, everyone. Judy Smith.
Ann Denny, Secretary to the Board.
Owen Weaver, Town Council. Happy New Year.
Good evening, John Carangelo.
Bill Kraut.
Mitch Goldblatt.
Okay, so we all know who we are. Very good. Public participation. Public participation is for any item that is not an agenda item, and they allow up to 2 minutes per speaker. If it's a matter that may require more time, sometimes the board may grant that. So who will be? Yes, sir, all the way, and I can see a hand. Oh, it's Frank, okay. I could see a hand, I couldn't see a person.
Hi, everyone. Happy New Year. Frank Esposito, 29 Andrew Lane, Orange, Connecticut. I'll be super brief, as I know you guys are really researching the traffic devices. Again, I'll reiterate that, in my opinion, as a former police officer, I believe that any public or civil fine should be acted on in its entirety, and the police department should not take on the role of deciding who and who doesn't get a fine. I think that would open up some slippery slopes. And also, I said last time I was here, I was a huge fan of the science. A week ago today, actually a full week, my wife was involved in a very serious motor vehicle accident in Woodbridge. The technology was unbelievable. Woodbridge PD, the field officer, as well as the tech support people, had the offending vehicle, was it evading? And they had that person apprehended by the time the accident scene was cleared. My concern, and I think Judy raised the issue last about the security of the information. What I can say from firsthand experience, that has to be safeguarded tremendously, because if that falls into the wrong hands, it can be very problematic. And I think that if, you know, they're talking about Flauk, whatever that is, or whatever company you guys decide on, if the information, say, is picked up and sent to Arizona and then sent back to Connecticut for verification of, you know, the red lights, you know, the cops witnessed, you know, verify the violation, you might have wire fraud issues, you might have federal concerns. if that information is misused. And, okay.
Finish up.
Okay,
You can finish
so
up.
so there's also an integrity issue. You know, today it's real tough. We just had a situation that we all saw in New Haven with a police chief, you know, apparently stuck his hand in a cookie jar with some funds. So integrity issues can be everywhere. Again, thank you all for your time, your dedication, and a Happy New Year.
Thank you. Next.
Jody Deach, 601 Harborview Road. I come before you tonight very disappointed in our leadership. The Democrats ran a strong campaign, not a negative campaign. We pointed out areas that we and many residents feel need improvement in our town. And based on tonight's agenda and the 5-year plan being presented, it seems even the current administration was also listening to what Dan Fitzmaurice and our candidates were talking to residents about. I'm glad we put in the hard work, going door to door, knocking on doors, talking to residents, to see that the success in the results and the projects being planned. Yes, we ran a good and a tough campaign that apparently made our first selectman a little nervous that he wouldn't just cruise to a win. He was so upset that he might not win this election that when he refused to shake the hand of Mitch Goldblatt on Election Day, saying, "Not today, Mitch, not today." Then what does he do? He takes his marbles and goes home by not reappointing Mitch to the pension board that he has been on for many years. Not only was he admitting it was a political move, but this certainly is not in the best interest of our town. So what does he do? It seems that he appoints the father of the town attorney to replace Mitch. It seems that the ethics and best practices are also in jeopardy here in Orange. I call on every member of the Board of Selectmen to stand up and support Mitch and denounce this political move and to do so publicly. And just as one other side thing, if Don Foyer happens to be paying attention, we could really use some paving on Dogwood Road and Harborview. Thank you.
Next.
Good evening, all. Aaron Smith, 220 Wilson Road. First of all, thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. As a veteran, we go and sign a contract for this country. We give our time and effort to defend the rights and freedoms of all people. We come home, and sometimes we don't come home whole, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. The state of Connecticut introduced a policy or a legislation, I believe it was last year, for a tax exemption on veterans as it relates to, we'll say, severely injured, 100% disabled, and the widows of those respective veterans. The original intent of that bill, as I read it, is that the tax exemption for the veterans were meant for not just a portion of the property. It is for the land up to 2 acres, as well as the dwelling that resides on that land. Now, Wallingford and Southington has expanded that, as is their right as a municipality to include up to 1 acre. Here in Orange, we only have a fraction or a percentage of that. It varies. I'm here to speak on behalf of the veterans. I know that in the town of Orange, there may be 15 veterans, which if you take the medium tax revenue from that to include the dwelling and the land, should not exceed more than approximately 180 to 200,000 a year. It's something that we can give back to the veterans. When I first moved to Orange, it was very affordable for me to live in Orange. Thank you for your time.
just so you know, the assessor is working up those numbers because veterans already do get a partial exemption that was passed by the selectmen. So they were doing a evaluation of all, part, some, as you had mentioned, the other towns have done. So the assessor is working on that, and it will be considered by this board.
The public agenda?
It will be once it's, yeah, this board has to vote on it.
Okay,
Yeah.
much appreciated, thank you.
All right. Next, yep.
Okay. Hello, I'm Garrity Carr. I live at 555 Dogwood Road. This is piggybacking off of, I think Eric, I think you said your name was. Sorry. My name is Garrity Carr. I live at 555 Dogwood Road. I'm here to ask the board to proceed and work on voting on the property tax exemption expansion. As the gentleman said before, currently military veterans in Connecticut who are considered 100% permanently and totally disabled through the VA are currently exempt from property taxes on their homes, just the dwelling. As of October 25th, Connecticut expanded, or they clarified, that exemption to include up to 2 acres of land. Towns must vote on this in order for us to decide if it's going to include the land or not. So I'm just asking the board to proceed in the steps to vote on this so the veterans in town who call Orange home can know where they stand with their property taxes. That's all.
And you already heard, so Mark's
Yes, I did.
working on that.
I did work with Mark and I have a list.
Yeah, but he hasn't come up with all the numbers yet. At
Okay,
least not, I haven't gotten it.
okay, perfect.
So I know he was doing that because the houses are already out of it. And then there were some lots that were larger, some that are smaller, so there's fractional pieces there. And he had looked into what the other man had said about some allow the whole thing, some allow a
Right.
certain amount
Okay,
up to.
yeah, just here to
Yep.
see if we can keep that ball rolling.
Yep.
Thank you.
Next? No?
Sean Michael Green, 466 Yellow Brick Road. And I appreciate all the shout outs for the veterans, by the way. So thank you for this opportunity to address the Board of Selectmen and my neighbors. First, I want to congratulate and thank everyone who volunteers to serve our community. It must be a challenging job, and I appreciate everyone who takes it on. Thank you. I want to talk about the non-reappointment of Mitch Goldblatt to the Pension Board. It was discussed at the last meeting. The story confuses me. Sometimes I think I understand it. It seems simple, but I must be missing something. Mitch is a person who's been a volunteer on our pension board in this town for more than 20 years. His day job includes working with pensions. He is knowledgeable and dedicated. I've not heard anyone dispute this. The fact that he was not renewed in his appointment is surprising to me. For everyone who serves this town, your prize is to serve me, my family, my neighbors, this community. I hope to provide you with rewards along the way. I want it to be a good job. But the job is to make decisions that are in our collective best interest. Is there any argument that not reappointing Mitch Goldblatt serves us? Who's that helping? How is this in line with your core job function? But that isn't the most confusing part. According to the account I heard, Mitch was told by Mr. Zioli that he was not being reappointed as a political retribution. No euphemisms, no winking, just straight up. I'm going to punish you for being in a different political party. I'm confused about how any of us can sit here and pretend this is okay, how we can pretend this is normal. I can't and I won't. I cannot raise my family in a community where we allow that, and I will not do it in a community where we do it in silence. If you're okay with this, sit quietly. Things are going your way, at least for now. But if you're not okay with it, for the love of God, make your voice heard, because this isn't right. Thank you.
Anybody else? The board? Our board. Huh? Yeah, we usually do both up here.
Thank you. Few things from the recycling committee. Last year, we had a great program about decluttering. Lauren Haas led a program at the library. We're going to redo that again, March 19th, to help people figure out how to declutter and also prepare for Shredding Day on April 11th, when they can declutter certain things that day. I also want to thank Bob Britton for his efforts in bringing battery recycling and fluorescent bulb recycling to the transfer station. You can now bring the fluorescent bulbs and batteries to the trailer that houses the electronics. So that's another way for us to continue our recycling efforts in town. However, I do have a little bit of bad news, and that is that for the second straight month, we've had a shipment that goes out for recycling contaminated and returned, which means we don't pay $80 per ton to get rid of recycling. We pay over $100 a ton to get rid of it as trash. Plus, it ruins the efforts of so many people who are thinking they are recycling in the best efforts. We must be diligent about what we put in our recycling bins and what we bring to the transfer station. That means no plastic bags. That means not putting in styrofoam. It also means just putting in things that are meant to be recycled. When it comes to what goes in your blue bin, it is basically the cans, the bottles, the papers, the cardboard, the things that are designated for recycling, and the plastics that go along with it from numbers 1 through 7, but not the plastic bags. If there's a certain amount of the load that's brought to the recycling plant that is contaminated, it is rejected, and we pay twice. So I just urge people to, I'm thrilled that people are very diligent in recycling, but we have to be careful between recycling and wish cycling. Things we wish to be recycled usually aren't. Let's make sure we just stick by the rules, and we'll all be better off, and the planet will be a better place. Thank you.
Anybody else at the table? No? Otherwise, we have just a very few things. To join on to what Mitch said about the recycling, we do get problems with the single-stream recycling dumpster down there especially. The house-to-house pickup somewhat, but that's been corrected a lot. But the biggest problem that they have at the transfer station is in the glass dumpster. I did work really hard to find a person who would accept the glass, and we ultimately landed with Urban Mining up in Beacon Falls. Mitch and I talked about it, and it was working out really well. The recycle committee has big signs right on that dumpster. No plastic, no this, no that.
No lids, no corks.
You go down there and you see the guys with the tong grabbers pulling out the plastic bags and the other things that aren't, and the signs are this big. And I'm not speaking just to the audience, I'm speaking to at home too. Read the sign. There's certain things that can't go in there, and then Urban might, like the recycling that he's talking about, costs us more. It costs us a lot more when the stuff goes to Urban Mining and it's full of garbage, as opposed to just glass. And glass and cardboard are the biggest tonnages that we create. And we worked hard, and Marcus Paper, Steve Zamkoff, started years ago with him, and he takes the cardboard. That's where those dumpsters of cardboard go, down to New Haven. And the glass was the next heaviest tonnage that we as humans generate, and we finally found a way to get rid of that, a lot of it separate from the single stream. But if you don't just be a little bit careful when you're dumping it, if you have bottles or glass in a bag, you don't throw the whole bag in. Dump it out. It's okay if it's broken, because they're going to break it and grind it when it gets to Beacon Falls anyhow. So just ask you to watch that, because it is really important. Otherwise, it defeats the purpose of trying to separate the stuff out to make it efficient and make the recycling a little bit cleaner. Really, It's a yeoman's task. We lost some people all in the last week, actually. Former town volunteers and one was an employee. Fran Mantiglia, I don't know how many people remember Fran. She worked at Park and Rec. She was a wonderful lady. She worked there, I don't know, she was probably close to 90 when she retired. She was a hoot. If you'd call her on the phone, she'd go, wait a minute. She'd have to pull out her hat and, as I called it, her hair, and put the phone up so she could talk on the phone, so she could hear. She was a great lady, a very gentle person. She passed away 102 or something, I think she was, and unfortunate, but a very dedicated employee. The next one is Dr. Marab, Norman Marab. He sat on our Board of Health and Board of Education and probably some other committees that I don't know over the years. And I mean, he's a contemporary of my parents, so he was well into his 90s. Wonderful, wonderful family, very committed to the town, and unfortunately, he passed away this weekend. Jimmy Hattrick, who's lived in town all his life down on Racebrook Road, also another volunteer on committees and stuff here in town. Always had a little bit of wit and a little sharp tongue to give you, and he passed away. So we lost 3 of our senior members of the community all in one weekend. I mean, they say they come in threes, so there's our 3, I guess, for that, unfortunately. So our thoughts are with all those families, and when their time comes, it is a loss. Monday, January 19th, all town offices will be closed in observance of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. However, the transfer station is open. The transfer station is a vital part of our town, and no matter what, the transfer station is open. So that's what we have at the moment for my announcements and people passing. Also, up for discussion tonight is Fred Wolf Park, just so all of you are aware. The board is not making any decision or building or approving building anything tonight. The board will see the plan. It's been seen by the committee. It's been available online for probably a couple of years now, at least, right? At least 2.
Since October of 2025.
Yeah, but the committee's been together since when?
Yeah, January 19th, 2023.
Of 23. Our job tonight is to review it, take a look at it, and it will then go to the zoning board as the next stop for it for an 8-24 municipal review. Just so everybody's aware of that. We are not acting on its implementation. Good word for that. Thank you very much. Okay, next item is to consider an act.
Excuse me, Jim. So just following up on that, so, because people, I'm sure a lot of people are here for Fred Wolf Park. What then is the next step after the 8-24? What is the, can you tell us what the process is so everyone understands?
Then it will probably come back to us, and then we will start to discuss what parts first. We had, I can't think of his last, I want to say Mr., but I can't, Dominic from B&L had emailed right around the holiday time that we will discuss, once we move through this part, which phases we'll then move with as it proceeds. I think, and it's only my opinion, that the board will say, and Dominic will advise on it, or Derek, one of them's gonna, which part is next. And really, I think one of the biggest helps, which was what I wanted to do before, was the roadway kind of from the Oakview neighborhood around the back and then up to La Crosse, and expand La Crosse, clear that piece of woodland between the roadway that goes down to Oakview opposite the playground parking lot, that kind of piece of wood. So you would clear that piece all the way down to the roadway, and then that roadway area would be cleared along the side of La Crosse over there for potential future parking and/or courts is probably, but I don't know what they're gonna, I have not talked to Dominic. I don't know, so I don't know what the committee has decided, but that's where we are with that.
And Jim, what's the process for public input? Would it be at our level or at zoning, to get
Both.
information,
It'll-
for
it'll-
modifications?
It'll be, it's a discussion for us. I presume the engineers have been working with the committee now for a couple of years, so I presume, and I won't know until one or both of them come up, they're gonna tell you what they heard, what they incorporated, what the reasons were, why, and why. I've stayed out of it, so we're gonna find out when they come up. Minutes, to consider and act on the minutes of the December 10th, 2025 regular meeting of the Orange Board of Selectmen. Any errors, omissions, or corrections? If so, state page and paragraph. If not- Okay, that's what I was, that was
Second.
next. Okay, motion is made and seconded to approve. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? One abstention. Okay, done. All in favor except one abstention. Item number 1 under new business, to consider and act on the request from the Lions Club to use the field at High Plains Community Center for the annual Easter egg hunt on Saturday, March 29th, 2026, with a rain date of April 5th, 2026, and if the gym is needed on the rain date, to waive the customary rental fees. Dr. Messina is here to speak to that.
Good evening, members of the board. Mrs. Yoli, Happy New Year to you all, and hopefully this is going to be a good year. There's a typo on that. It should be actually Saturday, March 28th, with the rain date of April 4th. I apologize for that, but the town has been very kind over the last 64 years. This is our 64th annual Easter egg hunt. We've only had one time we had to use the gymnasium, so we've been very lucky. Hopefully the luck will hold out for us. But we distribute about 10,000 chocolate eggs with other candies. We give out toys. We have the Easter Bunny come in a police car with the siren blast, and it's a fun day. So if you have young kids, older kids, please come and join us. And I appreciate the Board of Selectmen for allowing us to have another Easter egg hunt at High Plains Community Center. Any questions for anyone? Every year I ask the same thing. Would anyone like to be the Easter Bunny this year? You're busy. Nice excuse. But thank you.
PJ would be a great guest.
Okay, PJ.
Yeah, it's just,
Got a little fan in the head to keep you cool. Don't worry. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
not enough, not enough.
As good as you could have.
Go ahead, make a motion, John.
Motion to approve as presented with the exception of the
Corrections.
date change.
Okay, motion's made and seconded over there by the bunny. All in favor? Opposed? Abstained, unanimous. Item number 2 is to consider an act on request from Cub Scout Pack 922 to waive the customary rental fee for High Plains Community Center for the Pinewood Derby event, which is Friday, February 6, 2026. And I think, we got a bigger crowd now. All right, who's going to speak to it? You come on, come on over, just watch the cord there. Don't knock over their computer. That'll pick you up, just talk loud.
Hi, my name is Lucas. I am an Arrow of Light Scout from Pack 922. I am here today with my friends Frankie Murphy, Charlie Boyle, and Nate Adams to ask of you to waive the fee of renting the gym for the Pinewood Derby. I have 3 reasons why you should waive the fee of the gym for the Pinewood Derby.
My first reason is we help clean the community center throughout the year by picking up the trash we find.
The second reason is that we help set up the fairs and raise the flag. Our third and final reason is that we, in Pack 922, we've been a part of the community for many years, and it would be very good for the first years.
That is why we think we should waive the fee of the gym. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, gentlemen, for all you do. Where are you going? They haven't said yes or no yet.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the petition as presented by these fine young men.
Second.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Unanimous. Now you can go.
Well done.
Good luck. Which one of you is, any one of you gonna win? Who's the, oh, you are? Boy, he didn't even have any hesitation. Zoom. I remember that when we were kids, who would drill and put weights in
Yes,
the
the
front of it,
weights,
the
yes,
washers up
that's
in the
right.
front and everything. Boy, that's a long time ago now. To consider an act on the five-year capital plan. The five-year capital plan, and Mr. Cifarelli is here, is a rolling document that has been for years. You'll see things repeat in it, sometimes year after year. Some of them are done in the year it's listed, some of them are deferred, some of them are financed through different methods of payment. We have some other funding available now that came through cannabis funds and opioid funds for two. Some people out there look shocked. That cannabis store, I'm just gonna explain a little bit.
Go ahead.
That cannabis store that's on the Post Road that was TD Bank at one point in its life. You're allowed one, and sometimes one is too many. But the positive side that does come out of that, to be one, the town receives 3% of their gross sale for revenue. Now, it's been declining, believe it or not. When they first opened up, we were getting as much as $19,000, $21,000 a month. And then it went up into the upper 20,000s. And now it's declining, and I think the last few months are in the 16, 17,000 range. It's still some found money. It's breaking a little bit of the moral fabric with some. However, when the legislature put that in, they put it in that way so that the communities for putting up with this get a little refund. So there's money in that account that will be used for sometimes some of these things to be done in here. And there's also another one was with the opioid settlements, which we actually have received money through a national settlement of, I think, 5 or 6 different pharmacies and/or providers had to, lost in a lawsuit settlement. And so we get payments on that also. They're not that big. They're 5,000, 6,000 usually, most of them 3,000.
More restrictive, too.
Yeah, but they're restrictive to what we can use them for, but these are things that we can use them for. So, but those are also found money, so when people ask where some of these other monies come from, a little bit of sour taste gives a little sweet taste sometimes too, I guess is the best I can sum that up. Some people don't understand all that. But with that, John, I'll turn it to you.
We do this every year, usually in December or January. Most of it is because our LoSiP money, the way they changed the LoSiP, the way you spend it, now you have to have a 5-year capital plan. If you use that money, it has to appear on the plan, where before you used to apply to use it for something. I think we used it for Fred Wolf Park at one time
We have.
to clear the lot and all. Now you use it, and then you submit a report in September for what you use the money for. So this is our 5-year capital plan developed with different directors and managers of the different departments in town.
We didn't, the 5-year plan, or the LoSiP plan, it's a large paper like this you have to fill out, and we always filled it out, sent it in, never a problem, and we got refused one time, and we couldn't figure it out. Well, the state changed the process, Office of Policy and Management, and there was this little yellow box that nobody paid attention to. And all the towns were getting their requests sent back because they weren't checking off that little box that said, yes, you have a 5-year plan. So then, as long as you have that and verify it with OPM, Office of Policy and Management, then you're okay as far as using those LoCIP funds. However, they've changed the way that they offer those funds. We have some funds in an old account and some funds in a new account. It's just the legislature creating more burdens than they really need to sometimes. But that's the biggest reason. So it's a planning tool, is what it really is. Mitch?
Thank you, Jim. Thank you for the explanation also, John. So the only biggest question I have is that I'm looking at July 1, 2026 for June 30th, 2027. I have two questions. The first one is, there's some really big items on here which I think many of us realize that should be done and called for some time, such as the HVAC dehumidification at High Plains Pool, the roof replacement at High Plains, installed gym padding at High Plains, and there's, I guess the town hall elevator needs to be modernized, and a few other things here in town hall, as well as a transfer station that you've, or John, have listed out here as future bonds. But if we're going to take on any of this in 26, 27, are we looking at a bond coming up for this year's budget request? Are we looking to do that so we can actually start moving on some of these things that, some of it's way past due?
You're not looking at a bond yet.
Okay?
That can come at any time, because it wouldn't impact the upcoming budget, even if you did do a bond somewhere in that window, because it actually wouldn't take effect until the following fiscal year where repayment would start.
I guess to clarify, I was thinking the bond has to be voted on by the taxpayers, and I was thinking,
Oh, yeah.
are we looking to vote on a bond along with this year's budget referendum is what I'm
No.
thinking? No?
You would never get it done in time to do that.
Okay.
And also, there's,
Do we have a timetable for this then, at all?
for which, there's,
Well, you've got
Well,
one,
there's
there's
something
there's
that-
6 items there listed, says future bonds, and there's some pretty big ticket items there, especially the roof and dehumidification of the
that-
pool, so.
I will tell you this because there's always somebody who needs to know. We've been working on a potential funding from 2 different other sources for that, and one of them being a federal government program for community centers and senior centers and that type of thing. And they were supposed to send me dates this week, but unfortunately, 2 of the people in their office have COVID. So the people that manage the Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts office, they come out of Amherst, were unable to give me dates yet. So at some point, we will have dates, and we're doing something with that was brought to our attention, and that started back a while ago, and now we're moving to the point. Mr. Britton has ballpark prices for the roof, ballpark prices for the Aon unit, ballpark prices for the cabling, which has to go in the tunnel that we had the asbestos remediated in at High Plains, and the pieces that go with that. But we're waiting to meet with them now that we've gathered this information to find out how refined we have to be before we go to the next step with them, which is this next meeting that we will have.
Thank you.
So they're on this list, but we have our fingers crossed that somebody else is paying for them.
Yeah, but if not, we may have to go out the bond, I see.
Yes,
Okay, okay.
absolutely.
And the second question I had was, in all 5 years of this, we're looking at Fred Wolf Park improvements as one of the items that, along with road resurfacing and buying trucks that we need and things like that, they're typical.
Those are
But
static.
I'm concerned that we're about to hear a big presentation, and we know it's going to be in the 7-figure range, yet we're only looking at $100,000 a year for the next 5 years towards Fred Wolf Park. Do we have a serious commitment?
It has
Okay.
to be on the list.
Well, I'm
The
glad it's on the
amount-
list. I just want to make sure
The
we're,
amount doesn't have to be
Okay.
exact on that.
And
It
if that
just
was part
needs
of
to
a
be on the
bond,
list.
that's a separate item
Yeah.
from this. This is your master plan
Okay.
Master list for
If
this.
you look back at the list I gave you last year and probably the year before, Fred Wolf Park is probably on it for the same amount for all those years. It's just
Oh, I
carrying
believe
it.
it. The-
It's
the-
just
the
carrying
difference
it
is now
on.
we're looking at a big plan.
If something comes up that we get money for and it needs to be on here, it's on here.
Okay.
It's just to cover ourselves on it.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, John, I was going to say we're missing a zero there, but that's okay. The column for the federal and state grants, and I know you talked about it, I was reading, you might have answered this already, but is that money we've already received or we anticipate to receive?
Anticipate. We won't know what we're getting for the new year until after the governor gives his speech in February.
Okay.
Then we get something from CCM on what our projected revenues are, ECS money and all that.
Okay.
You remember those days.
And just so everybody knows too, last year when they raised the ECS money, the educational cost grant money, ours only went up about $15,000. So,
To clarify though, John, ECS money wouldn't go towards capital improvements
No.
here anyways,
No.
right? Okay.
No, I'm trying to think, there was, well, it's all right, with the budget, you were talking on budget, a good thing that, honey, it just, if you recall it, this is the second year in a row also, our share of Amity dropped a little bit, but don't be too excited out there because Woodbridge is gaining on it for the last 2 years, but we're gonna be, the way the numbers look, we're gonna be gaining after that, unless they do build those 2 new apartment buildings in Woodbridge, it will start to ebb back to Orange. We've had this for forever where it floats the Amity percentage that we pay. But this year, the budget will be able to have a little reduction again from the Amity side of the budget. Any other questions on the 5-year plan? No? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve as presented?
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed?
you.
Abstained? Unanimous. Next one is to consider and act on the request to accept the approximately 700-foot extension of Skyview Road finally. Skyview was there, has been there for quite a few years. Then there was a piece that was kept, that was bought when they bought the land and built Fieldstone. And this piece of it, the developer kept and built houses on. It took them a long time to sell all those lots and build the houses, but ultimately it was done. And they finally have finished and paved that new part to town specifications. And so it became a formal acceptance quite a few years ago now, so there's a paper trail when the roads are accepted, because we do still have 2 or 3 roads in town that are not, they're public roads, but they're not town roads, because they weren't built to the specifications required for town passage. So they're private roads, but this is a piece that will become another piece of town road, and then we take over the maintenance of it. Any questions on this one?
Jim, just that, if I read it correctly, even if we approve this tonight, it still has to go to the annual town meeting for formal approval?
It goes on, yes, it
On the
goes on.
agenda in May?
That's why we approve it tonight. No?
No, so
Okay.
this board has
It used to.
authority, this board has authority to accept the extension. Mitch, what you're referring to is the discontinuance of the turnaround.
Okay,
That has to go to town meeting and this board. The sequence doesn't matter.
Okay.
Probably this board first and then town meeting, it would be my suggestion, but the board, the charter gives this board authority to accept the extension. Yeah.
Okay.
so you say there's 2 actions for this board then, Owen?
Not tonight, but
Okay.
overall to complete the project.
Okay.
Any other questions? If not, is there a motion to approve? Motion made, is there a second? Second, second is made. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Unanimous. Item number 5 is to consider an act on request to approve the tax refunds totaling $13,755.93.
Motion to approve.
Okay. All right, motion's made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Last item under public session, new business, is the Fred Wolf Park presentation. It's Dominic Seltruda and Derek Cole from B&L Companies. I'm not sure.
Well, we're gonna
Oh,
say a couple
you're
comments
gonna-
before. Do
okay.
you want PJ and I to go up to the podium, or would you like us just to?
What is your pleasure? You can do either.
It's convenient. I know, it's very comfortable, because I'm not doing this now, like, oh my God. All right. I know. Well, good evening, everybody. So I'm John Carangelo, 534 Halliwell Ave, Orange. I am a committee member of the Fred Wolf Park Committee, along with PJ Shanley, who's present. So when I'm speaking to you on behalf of our committee. The committee is comprised of several members, Jim O'Connor, Janine Capisolatro, Tracy Persico, and Jack Pritchard. I wanted to first and foremost thank those committee members because it's been a long process. Many of you may or may not know, we started this process back in January 19th of 2023. We were asked to task the plan of Fred Wolf Park. Our committee met monthly. We posted agenda items to the public. We kept records of all the ideas that the public brought with them to our meetings. At some point in time, we were tasked to do a traffic and safety study because the concern was that the safety of our residents was a big concern. So at that time, we retained the service of BL Company. Derek Seltruda and, Derek Cole and Dominic Seltruda, who are here, took that task and laid out data to the public, ultimately came up with some recommendations that we implemented on a temporary basis to see how it would impact the public at the park and the surrounding neighborhoods. Again, those are temporary measures that to this day are still there, and we continue to work with the public, the police department, the Park and Rec department, and our residents and the First Selectman's office to make sure that the public is safe. After that, our task then turned to our master plan. And for a year and a half, we worked together to come up with ideas that would benefit this town as a whole. All agenda items were noticed to the public. We were extremely transparent to everybody. And ultimately, we had a meeting in October of 2025 where the plan was shared with the public. To be candid with this board, at the meeting, there was an overwhelming amount of people there, which was wonderful. There are still concerns of the plan around mainly the surrounding neighborhoods. We, as a committee, wanted to make sure that those neighbors' voices were heard. Obviously, this is a big plan, and it will affect the neighbors that surround the park. So as we go forward, we want to let the public know we will continue to make sure that their thoughts and desires are part of this plan. And since that time, we asked the board, the committee rather, to vote on sending that plan to this board. The vote was taken. It was unanimous among our committee heads to present that plan to this board to see, and then hopefully at that point for you to share it with the town plan and zoning and more public input. A couple of things you should know about the plan. and some of the concerns the residents had. One of the things that was raised was if we do have a Fred Wolf Park that we plan to implement, there was a strong desire for the Orange Park and Rec to take control of any scheduling, any maintenance, so that it's the Orange Fred Wolf Park, and it's not any individual association or, there's many different associations that have been helping maintaining the properties and so on throughout this process, but it would be our town that would take the role so that whether it's soccer, lacrosse, football, basketball, pickleball, those schedules would be planned and implemented by our Park and Rec department. Other than that, as I mentioned earlier, there is concerns about the surrounding neighborhood, how their houses and homes would be affected by potential water issues. And so we've talked to B&L, and they've come up with a plan and hopefully ideas of putting different, I don't know what you call them, basins and different type of foliage and so forth to make everybody as happy as they can be. I'll turn over my comments to any further comments with Mr. Shanley if he has some.
Thank you, John. That was a very good summary. PJ Shanley, 404 Narrow Lane. The only thing I want to do is reiterate John's point that everything that you're going to see today has been presented to us in one way or another from a member of the community. We had 14 action items that were on the bottom of every agenda that we carried forward. So everything was transparent. Here's what we're looking to accomplish because this was presented to us by someone from the community. So it's kind of developed into a bigger community project than just soccer, lacrosse. It's going to be something that our entire community could use, hopefully, for generations to come. We're going to need a lot of support. We've had, I think, a growing number of people that have come out and helped support this project, but we're going to need more. Okay, so please keep engaged. There's some people that have come to many different meetings. Our last meeting, we had a few people. John had mentioned we had a good turnout last meeting, and one of the things that came up was on the north end of the project, there are walking trails, and some of the neighbors were concerned about that. It's not our goal to aggravate the community. We really want to make this something that everybody could enjoy, so that's going to be something that we're going to recommend to be taken out, so that everybody is able to use this and feel comfortable with it. So please continue to offer feedback, and hopefully you enjoy the presentation from BL.
You using this screen?
Perfect. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Select Board, residents. To reiterate for the record, my name is Dominic Saltrudo. I'm the lead landscape architect with BL Companies. For those of you who were at the last presentation, this is a smaller version of that. So we build on each presentation that we've made before the community and the committee. You've seen this a lot if you've been to some of the meetings, but we want to reiterate the purpose of the plan to develop that clear vision roadmap for the future recreational development within Fred Wolf Park. And the bullet points you see up on the screen, how we did it. We reviewed existing additions, we inventoried and analyzed, we engaged with both stakeholders, the public, and town agencies. We developed alternatives, we presented the final plan for a recommendation or endorsement, and we provided permit considerations and constructions of opinion of probable construction cost. Mr. Crangelo stole some of my thunder, but that's okay. The check boxes continue. You can see this is a long process, but it's a necessary process. You want to make sure the plan is going to stand the test of time as you move forward with this property. You can see all of the different options that we did, the workshops, the engagement, the surveys, the final presentation, and then now the final plan that went to the committee, and now we're bringing it through another vetting process with the select board, the planning commission, and then back to the select board. I wanted to touch on one of the bigger factors, and it was probably overlooked a little bit, but it's necessary to understand. We're not trying to overprogram the space. We want to be cognizant of the residents, the neighbors, the natural, the cultural, and the built forms out there. We want to be cognizant of both passive recreation as well as active recreation. We want to nod to those. So we did a long, hard look at the plan. And full disclosure, the plan was presented to the committee. Excerpts from the actual plan body itself has been provided to the board. That's the entire plan. Okay, there's a lot of information. We didn't bother them with the back end, which is the raw data that we took. Every comment card, every email, be it an email that's trying to sell something to our email address, every sign-in sheet, full transparency was held through the entire process. So we wanted to make sure that we presented all that in the final report. Park balance, we'll go back to that a little bit. We wanted to make sure we had that functionality and identity, and then John talked to that, and it speaks to some of the recommendations that we're going to talk about. We wanted to understand the environmental concerns. Early on, we understood there were concerns with water, obviously with the natural form, but also with the active recreation out there. We looked at terrain and natural features. We looked at old reports. We looked at old master plans. We looked at a lot of information that was both gleaned from the town, but also from the surrounding areas in the region. We listen to and we want to make sure the community needs are met. Again, back to that word roadmap. When you're planning a trip, you plan your roadmap, but you can take little detours along the way, and we did that during the process, and it can be done as an active plan moving forward. We looked at your demographics, we looked at cluster amenities, we looked at a lot of different things, passive and active, and then we started to kind of wind that into a plan process. What were the recommendations? Now, everyone's going to look at the graphics. I'm going to speak to the terms that are on here. These are the endorsed programming that we looked at, and John touched on this a little earlier. Town ownership, scheduling, maintenance, and security, taking action to make it the Fred Wolf Park in Orange, Connecticut. Not defining it by soccer, not defining it by outdoor hiking trails, not defining it by pickleball courts that may or may not ever exist. Increase the maintenance budget over a scheduled period of time, understanding that if you build it, they will come. But on the next, we've all heard that from a movie, I think. But the next part of that is, and it has to be maintained in order for it to live and be able to produce the active and passive recreation that the residents desire. Environmental improvements, mitigations, and enhancements have to be built into every phase of development. What does that mean? If we're going to install the roadway, we have to be cognizant of the environmental effects that it's going to take. There was a comment made about permitting. Yes, we're going to have to look at permits. We're going to have to understand what can and can't be done. And we'll get into funding in a little while. Some of those funding options are going to actually aid you in that. Infrastructure improvements. Anybody who's built a house, you have to put the foundation in first. Some of that's lacking, so that has to be understood in any phasing aspects. And everybody knows that costs a lot of money, but you don't see a lot of it. When you put a water line in, none of us see it. When you put in a drainage line, none of us see it, but it is necessary for the overall vitality and longevity of an active park. Internal Park Road converted to a town road. This speaks directly to safety, something that we've been looking at since we first formed our relationship with the town. Understanding that your public safety representatives are a little hand-tied. They can't even access a fine or even a warning because the internal road network is not a technical town road. We felt this was an enhancement that can happen, and it can be themed for the park itself. Park branding, dedicating it, again, giving it a theme, taking ownership as Fred Wolf Park. Long-term review improvements against the plan. That's when you come back to the committee or to the board, making sure any improvements are vetted against the plan. You can make adjustments to the plan. You just have to make sure they're done in such a way that is open, transparent, and we make sure that it's for the good of the entire plan if we pivot. We don't know what the next pickleball is going to be, but it's coming. There's going to be some other activity out there. We don't know what's going to happen in the future, so we want to make sure we've planned for that a little bit as well. Outside groups, making sure that we look at usage fees, make sure everyone is paying their share, but at the end of the day, we want to make sure the residents of the town are the ones that benefit the most from the use of the park. All fields designated as play fields, we're not going to define fields. We're going to give you play fields. It's up to the town to understand that they can be multi-flex. They're all multi-purpose fields. They can be used for a multitude of different activities. And then review the plan on a predetermined basis for conformance and adjustment. Just like you do your POCD, if you're going to develop it over time, and even when you have an established park, you're always going to take a step back and look at it and say, are we maximizing space for the places that people and the residents in the town want to interact and enjoy and recreate on? The endorsements for the park, we had a lot of them. We had to filter them down, and we looked for that balance between environmental and active, between passive and active, between understanding the ecological or ecological elements out there on the site. I'm not going to read all of them. I'm just going to talk to a couple of them. Some of the interesting ones were demonstration gardens, cultural education and historical nodes, swing and a miss on us on trails. Understood, but there can be some other trails that can be implemented that can explain the history of that site and understand its farming roots, the orchards, the understanding of wetland areas and biodiversity that can be implemented and or are already on site. Whenever we have fields, we want to make sure we put in cardiac loops, walking trails around them. They both service for accessibility to fields, but they also can be a marked mile, marked quarter mile, so someone who's of limited mobility or wants to just do a walking circuit can get out there and recreate. We really looked at, starting day one, defined vehicle and pedestrian access. And that was the first indicator and the first big key that we looked at. We recommend getting rid of that central spine road altogether and pushing all of your roadways to the outside, but still providing buffers for all the residents that inhabit the perimeter of Fred Wolf Park. Like I said, they told me to keep it short, and I can suck the air out of this room, so I'm just trying to get through a lot in a short amount of time. I can open it up to questions. So this is what you guys are looking at. That is the plan. You look at the fields in the middle. We look at designated parking areas or structured parking, but they're structured parking, but they would be low-impact structured parking. We're not looking at paving the world here. We added amenities such as pickleball courts, a few tennis courts, basketball courts. We left areas for open or undefined zones, and then we tried to work the circulation to the outside so you can get your Park Drive, Fred Wolf Park Lane, whatever, into a defined circuit that runs around. I will direct your attention to the right-hand side of the street. We do recommend a linkage out on the north, kind of that balance of trying to balance the entrances and exits within that. We studied all connection points that go to the site. Some of them were non-starters. Some of them were more environmentally challenging. And frankly, we wanted to provide some buffers, and then in the sensitive areas, we wanted to provide more of a natural corridor in some of those zones. Now, this is where Jim stole my thunder earlier. We came up with a recommended phase of attack. It may not be the one that you do, okay? We broke it down into a certain amount of phases, 5 phases. The first phase you see is trying to solve that immediate problem of safety. Because outside of everything else, we're going to want to make the park a safe place for everyone to interact with. So we do that by redirecting the access road around the outside to lacrosse, and then obviously extending it down the lacrosse fields to the end. That starts to unlock portions of the site that are currently locked in because there's just no access to them. Also part of that you don't see, and there's a price tag associated with it, is planning for the final improvements of utilities, water, additional power, how we're going to handle sanitary drainage, things along those lines, making sure we put measures in place both for the drainage of any impervious or porous or impervious surfaces that we're going to do, and then putting the items in place for the utilities. At the same time, updating fields. On the first phase, we're going to reimagine one of the fields to start, and part of that process is going to be understanding the drainage. So I'm going to go back for a second, just so you guys kind of take a look at this. I don't know if I can actually go back, but across the site, there are multiple areas, and they're not shaded on this one, of drainage zones, buffer zones for both hydrology and water, overflow areas where we're not putting in structured parking that could be used for structured parking, because there's a myriad of different activities. A lot of study was done to how it's affected by the active sports, the field sports, but we also wanted to understand how it works with community type events such as the tractor parade, how we can stage for that, where they can stage for that. So a lot of thought went into those processes. In terms of the phases, I don't like to say like we're going to do this big giant project and we're going to build parking lots, but we're going to build one parking lot at least, and then get the roadway network in and a field, and then balance that out with environmental factors of the areas that we're going to serve. So we make sure that we're being good stewards to the park itself at the same time. Phase 2, Phase 3, Phase 4, and Phase 5, they're up in the air. We had to give a quantitative look at what we thought the recommendations would be based on all the input that we had. So if you look at Phase 2 is the second connector. That unlocks pretty much the rest of the site. Phase 3 is a massive redo of the fields that can be, and each of these phases can be broken down, but it basically levels fields, makes sure they're good draining, they've got positive pitch, they don't have undulations to them, make them into more of a field-based or a meadow-based area. And then Phase 4 is more of your secondary activities. There would be a heavy emphasis on environment and also courts, or sport courts as we call them, for that piece. And then Phase 5, we break up to 2 areas that you can either expand fields or you can expand program or other elements into. Next steps. And I'm going to wait for the questions, but we got the endorsement of the committee. We delivered the final report. Now we're in that process of kind of an adoption of the master plan, and there's a few steps that have to do that. And then we can start to implement the plan. I want to take a moment on behalf of BL and thank the town of Orange for following a process that may at times have been tedious, may at times have been heated, but it was the right process, and it was a benefit to both the board, the town, and the residents to fully vet and understand the issues. The 3 people you see up there, the 3 people that you've seen the most throughout the process, my boss over here, Derek Cole, Vice President and Head of Engineering for BL Companies, Josh Wheeler, who's actually doing another presentation tonight, who's one of my lead landscape architects, along with me, and myself. But behind the scenes, there were multitudes of individuals in every walk of life within our BL family that contributed to this plan. I just wanted to make sure you understood that it was a big effort for us, but it was an enjoyable effort. When you have good feedback and data coming in on our side, it makes the plan that more refined. There are elements people aren't going to be happy with, but there's tweaking that can be done always. But it gives you that roadmap, and then it gives you the information and the data to understand how you can move forward to turn the plan into reality. I'm going to leave it at that. I can go through phasing if you want, but it's basically the 5 phases. The rough numbers, I mean, a full build out based on reality is a big number. We talked about it in the thing. You're looking, or in the last presentation, you're looking upwards of $20 million. But that's based on going rate construction criteria. This town is very resilient and very resourceful in the way that they perform operations. I wouldn't see why we couldn't shave those numbers down on certain aspects. And then we've provided a lot of framework in the plan for grant opportunities, private-public partnerships, working with your ball field and your field sport organizations to understand how you can start to realize it in a more effective, efficient, and economically feasible fashion. Thank you.
Tom, thank you. That was great. One of the things that's been presented to me numerous times is when you look at this, it looks like we've truncated the parking options. Could you please speak to the fact that by paving and lining, you've created more parking for everybody?
Correct. I'm not going to get into the exact numbers, but what we did over the course of the year, some people may have seen me out there. Sometimes we came out in the middle of the day, sat out there and watched. Sometimes we knew there was a sporting event going on or a jamboree. Myself or another representative from BL would go out and visually watch that. A few of your athletic organizations were kind enough to provide us with some data they had on traffic. We did the traffic study from the beginning, so we knew what those aspects were. Then we looked at the capacity of the fields. We have true traffic data on what the carrying capacity for those fields are based on, and I'm not a transportation engineer, so I'm going to get that out of the way, but the transportation engineers have a formula from a book that they look at that gives them a national average for athletic fields. We averaged in for all the uses. And then right now, anybody who's driven out there knows if you park sideways, the next person next to you is going to park sideways, but they're going to park 6 feet away from you. So we're going to structure the parking lots. So there's a nod. The first phase of that was done during one of the lacrosse seasons a year ago, where they took it upon themselves to take our plan and start to roughly stripe in parking. And you'd be amazed on how the human condition will fall in line with just simple lines on the ground. So even with an unpaved lot, those line paintings on the lacrosse lot started to make us understand, structured lot, we can pack more cars into. What we can do with a low-impact structured lot is we can define the parking of stalls in the areas. There's a little bit of an uptick in education, but you can actually pack more cars in with a structured type parking scenario. What it also does is it allows us better circulation of the internal roadway network. So now, before we put the elephant blocks, for no better term, the concrete in, you could just drive in there and it was off to the races. We want to structure the roadways and make sure, sorry at home. We want to make sure that when you're driving on the roads, you're understanding that you're on a roadway system, and we're putting turns and stops and 90-degree angles in to start to move that traffic efficiently around to the different use zones. What it should also do is balance the effect of the different entrances as we start to bring them on board. So in a nutshell, we can make the structured parking a little bit or more tighter, and then we can actually drain it a lot more efficiently than it does right now. Because currently, right now, it just drains and bombs out into the wetland areas. So we're going to provide buffer areas for that to be captured, cooled, cleaned, and put back into the environment.
Questions for Dominic? No?
Just wanted to
Derek?
jump in real quick, if you don't mind. Good evening. I'm Derek Cole. I'm a civil engineer, licensed professional engineer, state of Connecticut. Dom and our team has done a majority of the hard work. I support the team through allocation of our resources and providing my almost 30 years of experience. I have a lot of experience in stormwater, transportation, and civil site engineering. The one thing I've been active in our prior meetings is just to remind folks that despite great-looking graphics and so forth, this is a planning document. This is a master plan. There is a lot of work to be done in the future, and it is actually, as Dom has said, a roadmap. We're probably at about a 10% completion of design, maybe even 5%. After the town decides how they want to proceed, through here tonight, planning, zoning, coming back, and you decide what phase of the project you want to start on, that's where the real design begins. And there is an extensive amount of future public participation to tweak and enhance and revise these phases and so forth. The other component that I would just provide for great information, as you look at the price tag of major improvements over 5 major phases and so forth, most of the big projects we've conducted through the state of Connecticut with other municipalities, it's accomplished through a master plan and then phasing. And by having this roadmap and phasing identified early on, we can work with the town to go look at available funding sources, both from federal and a state level, and we can start to refine and attack elements of this project. So it'll also dictate that funding availability, what phase goes ahead. And there's different funding, both at the federal and state level, that are targeted more towards recreation, whether passive, active. There is funding that's directly targeted towards infrastructure improvements. And then sometimes there's community enhancement funding projects and funds available to us. So there's a lot out there and a lot of work to be done, and just wanted to assure the public that there's a lot of opportunity for the future to provide input and further refine. So thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Derek. Thanks, Dominic.
It's good that my counterpart came up here. It should be known that when we did the estimates, they are planning estimates based on that 10% design. So there are multipliers and escalators built into the funds. So as you refine that plan, we put, allowances in there and a lot of things in there because there's unknowns. Those allowances historically start to come down as you develop that plan. So what you're seeing in the numbers is the highest points at this point, and I think we put an escalator in for time as well.
Whose time?
Your time,
Yours?
not my time, no.
All right, we've heard him. Is there motion to send this to zoning? Any discussion? Do you want to send it to zoning or not?
Well, I'd like,
I think you do.
I'd like to make a motion to send it to zoning for review, so that we can move this forward, and that the discussions will continue.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed, abstain, unanimous. Okay, it'll be going to. No, it's going to zoning tonight. That was what we said in the beginning. Okay.
You silenced the Fred Wolf Park decision for 4 years, not just 2. And it's time that we talk about it.
It's going to zoning.
I'll be at that meeting too. It should be talked about here. That's why these people are
It's
here.
going to come back, Tom. Did you hear now what he just said?
Doing it again. Stop, stop.
Okay.
I know exactly.
All right, good. Close the is there a motion to close the regular meeting, move to executive session? In executive session, we'll be discussing the 2025 to 2028 labor agreement between the Town of Orange and the Communication Workers of America. Okay. Closed at 8:16:17. All right, go ahead. Bill said he will. Okay, so we're back in public session from executive session at 8:56. We had one discussion item regarding the labor agreement between the Town of Orange and the Connecticut Communication Workers of America, AFL-CIO, which is our police and medical dispatchers. Finance Director Cifarelli and Town Council Owen Weaver were included in that meeting for input, and it was all agreed upon. Is there any motion to be made regarding this contract?
Make the motion to accept the contract, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
All right, motion is made and seconded to accept the contract of the Communication Workers of America, AFL-CIO, with the Town of Orange. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Unanimous. Thank you all very much, and we'll see you in February. We are adjourned at 8:59.